It is a Saturday full of football with perhaps even the Big Ten leaning towards coming back. Hello and welcome to Sports Nightly. I'm Mark Kunz alongside Alex Wilcox. Mike Robinson will be stopping by momentarily.
But first, the Browns and Lions set to kick off their NFL seasons tomorrow. While on the college gridiron, Notre Dame plays their first ever conference game. But we begin with high school football. As you saw live right here on BCSN, Cardinal Stritch looking for a 3-0 start for the first time in this century as they host the Eden Bombers. Let's head right out to the highlights. Stritch looking to stay undefeated through 3 games this season. Start in the first quarter. Cardinals getting their scoring started on the first possession. Thomas Faust over the middle to Aaron Pope. Nice catch by Pope. Bounces it outside. He's in for the score. Stritch with the early lead. Still in the first, this time Faust looking deep for Dwayne Moorhead, the Dayton Flyer commit, with the great over-the-shoulder grab. He's down around the 3-yard line. Moorhead would punch it in for the score on the very next play to extend their lead 14-8. Time winding down now in the first quarter. This time Faust getting it done with his feet. Can't find an open receiver and decides to tuck it and run. Finds an open gap and turns on the Jets. Cardinals head into the half up 21-16. We go to the third now. Cardinals on the goal line. Dwayne Moorhead with the carry and the easy score, his second rushing touchdown of the night. But he would not go away. Drew Gallahue finds a receiver behind the defense, goes down inside the 10-yard line, and then just a play later, Gallahue is going to take this one himself, dials his own number, parts the Red Sea for the touchdown. Bombers take a 30-27 lead. The Cardinals, though, answer again in the fourth. Check out this play by Faust. Makes the entire defense miss, makes a few cuts, and he goes all the way. Cardinals retake the lead here on this incredible touchdown run by Faust. I have a feeling we're going to be seeing this one on Top 5 Plays on Monday, just a hunch. The Bombers, though, would have the final say. A little swing pass here for the score. Eden comes from behind to get the win, 36-34, handing the Cardinals their first loss of the season. Let's send it to the guys that called it, Brad Woznicki and Mark Gibson.
Well, there was a lot to take away in this Week 3 matchup, Eden and Cardinal Stritch. The Bombers, having come in, won the last 4 meetings. And let's start with the first quarter and the offensive showdown that we had.
Oh, absolutely. And we knew early on Cardinal Stritch was going to try to get the ball in the playmaker's hands. And obviously Moorhead in the first play of the game, he got them in great field position. And then he was able to go on and end up scoring there. So we thought at that point it was going to be a shootout. We had a little bit of lull in the action, but obviously the way the game ended up, it was everything we thought it was going to be.
Yeah, 1-score game going into that fourth quarter. And it came down to execution, making plays. And when you're talking about making plays on the Eden side, Drew Gallahue.
What can you say about the kid? Last week, 6 touchdowns, a new school record. Then all of a sudden he comes up and makes plays on the ground, 2 scoring touchdowns on the ground tonight, some 2-point plays as well. And then at the end, when his team really needed him, defensively he stood up and made some great plays, saving some touchdowns, and obviously the extra point or the field goal try there at the end.
And for Cardinal Stritch, this their first loss of the season under first-year head coach Gene Rucker. They'll bounce back from this game. There was a lot to like in this performance. Quarterback Thomas Faust. He had Michael McGee coming up with a big interception late in this game, and Dwayne Moorhead making plays all over the field. Now they got to get ready for Ottawa Hills.
Yeah, and you just have to regroup. And as a coach, you start off the gates, you're doing everything that you thought was possible, and that's why you wanted to be a head coach. The kids are responding to you, and this is a learning experience. As you alluded to, this was much closer than it's been in the past. Cardinal Stritch is obviously getting better and better. You got to take away the positives, regroup this week, and come out with all guns a-blazing.
The Eden Bombers improved to 2-1 on the season with this victory. Now 5 straight wins over Cardinal Stritch. Let's go back to the studio.
The Big Play Breakdown is presented by Groganstown Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram.
Well, it's been a decade now that Napoleon has been in the Northern Lakes League, as Mike Robinson from Game Day Nation joins us for this Big Play Breakdown brought to you by Charlie's Dodge in Groganstown. And Mike, Rob, we've heard about Jared Gerdeman for the last couple seasons, and he had another big game last night against Maumee, but he doesn't do it by himself.
No, he never does it by himself, but he could. We know that. So let's take a look at the Big Play Breakdown. It's going to feature your guy, Big Jared Gerdeman. Toss sweep to the left side, 50 seconds left into the half. These guys are going to still run the football. They're up big, but you know what? It's hard to not score when you have him on the football field. So let's break down exactly how Gerdeman got into the end zone. He had some friends helping him along the way. Number one, on this toss sweep here, you got to take a look at the formation. Under the center, you got a lot of guys on the other half of blockers. But you got to pay attention to one man, Michael Chips. If you go to the Vegas, you're going to want to do things that he does. So when you watch him follow through the hole, Gerderman does a good job. He stacks this guy up. He gets a little upset. Don't worry about it. Keep running. And Gerderman is just so good, he makes two guys reach for his feet and still don't get him. But again, it's not just about Michael Chips. It's about the offensive line. Take a look. Big 66 and 56. Mr. Brown, he does a really good job of just getting into his defender downfield, and Wimpkin does too. Finding a way to keep blocking, never stopping, trying to help their football team win a football game. Excellent again. You see Mr. Chips down there doing it, but Gerderman, he's just so smooth. He can find that end zone at any point in time, so that's our big play breakdown.
So Napoleon, they are now 3-0 on the season, and it's going to make a very interesting Week 4 matchup for Napoleon. They'll be home next week to take on Perrysburg. Yellow Jackets also 3-0. Northern Lakes League, the next couple of weeks are going to decide it because you also got Bowling Green sitting out there 3-0. Let's talk about this Perrysburg-Napoleon matchup next week. A big physical line for Perrysburg. We've been impressed with Napoleon's line as well. That's going to be kind of where strength against strength meets.
I mean, Cade Zimmerly, that's the guy that you got to watch out for up front. If he can get advantage on that defensive line in Napoleon, those guys are tough too. So it's going to happen up front. But again, Waldensack and Gerderman, you're going to have a running back show on display. So this is going to be a big feature game here in the NLL.
Meanwhile, in the track Week 4, the attention will be on Central Catholic and Findlay. We maybe lost a little bit of the luster with St. John's thrilling comeback last night to hand Findlay their first loss of the year. But we know this Findlay team is tough. In Central, they look very good against St. Francis. But is Findlay going to be a good test for the Irish?
Oh, 100%. They're big, they're physical, and this is a team that can just dominate you up front. I love how this team comes out. Their mental toughness is good. I looked at the Twitters and watched these guys overnight. They're like, yeah, whatever, we're ready for Central Catholic. So this is a team that's not going to back down. Remember, they have the pedigree and the mentality of an NFL coach. So this is a team that's going to bounce back week in, week out. I'm going to watch out for this team in the playoffs as well.
And I think you made the point last night during Game Day Nation. We're seeing a Findlay team play with swagger. We haven't necessarily seen that over the last couple of years. Are they going to still have the swagger coming off the first loss of the year? That's going to be the test for Coach P, if he can keep his guys confident going up against the best team in the track.
Yeah, I think they're going to keep their swagger. They're going to keep cool as well, because whenever you have a coach that keeps that mentality, say, hey, we're going to stay playing with our style. We're not going to play to their style. And you see how they held St. John's, and that defense is tough. So they're going to give Central Catholic's offense a lot of struggles because St. John's defense did that to Central Catholic. So it's going to be a great matchup. Just tune in, people.
And speaking of St. John's, I firmly believe we're going to see another matchup between St. John's and Central down the line in the postseason.
I mean, we've seen it before, and the second versions have not been good for St. John's. So I don't know. This year's a little bit different. Brady Lichtenberg, he's a guy.
Yeah, Titans just simply refusing to lose last night, so they got the win on the road. Thank you, Mike Robinson from Game Day Nation for Big Play Breakdown. Talked about high school football. There's actually college football played this day as well. Alex Wilcox has more on that.
That's right, guys. Notre Dame kicked off their season today in South Bend. The Irish playing a conference game for the first time in their storied history, taking on Duke as a member of the ACC. Now, expectations are high for ND this season, but even Brian Kelly admitted he wasn't sure how his team was going to respond on a season opener unlike any other. And boy, was he right. Let's head to the highlights. Very strange scene at Notre Dame Stadium. Just over 10,000 fans in attendance. The Irish got out to a slow start in this one. They led 10-6 at the half. We go to the third now. Notre Dame faces a 4th and 1. They go for it, and they get a whole lot more. Kyron Williams scores from 26 yards out. One of 2 touchdowns on the day from him. Irish up 17-6. Duke kept hanging around, though. End of the third, Chase Bryce keeps it himself, and he's in. That pulls the Blue Devils within 4. It's 17-13 heading to the 4th. That's though when things got a little bit more comfortable for the Irish. Ian Book steps up into the pocket, tosses his first touchdown of the season to Avery Davis to get a little bit more breathing room. Notre Dame goes on to win this one 27-13. The Irish are 1-0.
It's difficult to duplicate game-like speed when you haven't had that for such a long time. So my expectations is that it was going to be a process and that we just had to be patient. And you saw we were patient. We stuck with what we were doing, and then we had to make some adjustments at halftime. And I thought we looked like the team we should have in the second half after we made some adjustments and settled into some things. And I thought we took control of the game in the second half.
And perhaps those adjustments were due to Brian Kelly's contract extension that came through in the second quarter. He's now signed through 2024.
Certainly helps.
Yeah, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll hit the soccer pitch. Good one this afternoon, evening between Perrysburg and St. John's when Sports Nightly rolls on.
Sports Nightly is brought to you by Groganstown Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram. Nobody treats you better.
Boys soccer tonight. Luke Price, Perrysburg Yellow Jackets on the road to face St. John's. Midway through the first, no score. Titans Ian Morton Wiggs in tremendous effort to slip through the D. Gets the goal. Home team up 1-0. Early second half. Jackets looking for the equalizer. Kareem Shahada gets behind the D, but Ben Danicky comes out to challenge. Shot goes wide, still 1-0. Under 13 to go. Titans Cameron Doyle centers to Sammy Defoe. Slips it past Price. That would be the final goal. St. John's defending the home turf. 2-0 win over Perrysburg. Danicky spearheading that defensive effort. Titans facing their rivals from Bancroft next Tuesday. A game you'll be able to see here on BCSN. Greg Franke was at Airport Highway tonight and has more.
St. John's came into this game with a 4-1 record. They only lost to St. X, which is one of the top teams in the state. And they certainly showed why they have a fine record as they defeated Perrysburg 2-0. They're a very skilled team. They're a very creative team. And they showed that. And Morton Wisgen beat two defenders and the goalkeeper to make it 1-0. And then also Cameron Doyle, who was outstanding. Every time he got the ball, he seemed to be beating two or three defenders and threatening. He had one goal to Sammy Defoe that got washed out by an offside, but then he made a very similar play, a long run, finished it off with a pass that Defoe scored on to make it 2-0. Perrysburg was very pesky. They had two chances, but Ben Danicky made great saves in the second half, and it was still 1-0 to preserve the lead. And then finally, Defoe's goal provided the winner, or the insurance goal, to make it 2-0, and that was the final score, St. John's over Perrysburg.
Coming up on Sports Nightly, we head out to the racetrack where fans were able to watch a race live in person at Toledo Speedway for the first time this season. That's next on Sports Nightly.
Sports Nightly is brought to you by Charlie's Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram. Doing it different, doing it right.
For the first time this year, fans were allowed back in the grounds of the Toledo Speedway for tonight's ARCA Royal Truck and Trailers 200 as Sam Mayer won his third straight race here in Toledo. The racers and fans will be back at the Toledo Speedway next weekend for another event. And as our producer Jason Ozenbaugh shows us, tonight when they dropped the green flag, it felt good to once again have racing back in the Glass City.
Tell you what, it's an entirely different energy here. We've had 3 races so far this season, and there hasn't been anybody here, and it is so strange to see these grandstands empty. So it is. There's just we're limited as to how many fans we can have here, but just having them here, there's just an entirely different energy, and it's so great to feel it again.
My buddy and I, we've been coming to a race here at Toledo for probably 10 straight years now, and it's a great tradition for us, and we're just really privileged to come despite everything happening in the world right now. Honestly, it's just the atmosphere for me and just getting to see it in person, because, you know, we watch it on TV all the time, but it's a completely different experience in person.
Yeah, it's really exciting, especially being from Michigan, because we're still kind of locked up in our houses up there, so this is great. I grew up around cars and racetracks. I was a mechanical engineer, and I worked for Ford Motor Company, designing engines, and also working on like race truck teams. And so being back here at the racetrack, the smells, the sounds, the engines, the people, it's everything.
Well, I've watched a lot of NASCAR Cup races, but I like these smaller races. It's more socialized. You know, up until this year, they used to have autograph sessions down on the track. You could get down there and talk to the people. I'm just happy to be here and really excited to get it going tonight.
Besides for dirt racing, been to a few dirt races, which are definitely a whole lot of fun, but definitely appreciate them letting us back in here for Toledo Speedway. It's been very competitive. I think Ty Gibbs is hanging back there waiting to see what could possibly happen, but it's good to see some good racing here in the city of Toledo.
This is the top level of stock car racing in this area that you're going to be able to come to and witness with race fans. We've got 2 more races here at Toledo Speedway coming up September 19th with the Central Transport Glass City 200. We're gonna invite these race fans to come back out for that, and then we're going to close on October 4th with some open wheel cars, the USAC Silver Crown Series. It's really the only professional level short track racing in this area, and we welcome everybody out. We want to feel that energy, man. We've been cooped up too. We're so pumped to have race fans back.
After the break, what do you do if you have, say, a baseball-sized yard and a big screen? Well, if you're the Mud Hens, you prove if you show it, they will come.
Well, Tom Hanks taught us that there's no crying in baseball. Of course, many of us have shed a few tears this year, including over the loss of some of our beloved sports teams. Here in Toledo, the whole city was disappointed when the Mud Hens canceled their season, but now the team is giving fans a new reason to come out to the ballpark with Saturday night movies. For the first time in 2020, fans poured into Fifth Third Field to watch some baseball. No, not the Mud Hens, but the movie A League of Their Own about women pro baseball players during World War II. This is the first year the Hens are doing Saturday movie nights, and so far, it's been a big hit.
Oh my gosh, I can't explain how wonderful it is to have people in the ballpark. You know, you see friends and you see fanatics and flock members, you see movie fans. I mean, it's just wonderful, and people are really excited to be able to have something to do.
Just finally getting out. We're from Michigan. We don't get to do this in Michigan. So any outlet to come out and do something safe with my family, I'm going to do it.
These movie nights attract a range of people, from family and friends like the Beauregards and DeBrincats enjoying a night out.
It's a girls' night, no hubbies.
Yeah, girls' night.
To diehard baseball fans like the Scotts taking in their favorite movie.
A League of Their Own is a very fascinating movie because it shows me that women can do anything they put their mind to in life, and that's just a really inspirational film.
She has a ball and I have a ball signed by at least 25 of the players that actually, I think 2 of the players that actually were in A League of Their Own. We have a signed script from A League of Their Own, signed by the director. We have a nice portrait from A League of Their Own, signed by Tom Hanks.
All social distancing guidelines are being followed, with people seated in specific pods spread 6 feet apart in the outfields and throughout the stands. For many, it was great just to be at a ballpark again.
We would never really experience this any other time, so it's fun, and just looking at the field, it's like, oh my gosh, this is what they experience when we're up there in the seats, so pretty cool.
We're huge baseball fans, so it's awesome being in a field again and just being able to be here. It's just great.
It's certainly been a rough year, but it's worth remembering.
There's no crying in baseball.
There's no crying in baseball, right? And there's going to be no crying tonight.
The Mud Hens will continue playing movies at the ballpark every Saturday night through October. For the full schedule, just head to their website.
Unfortunately, the Tigers probably making some fans cry tonight. They lose to the White Sox 14-0. We'll be right back. Before we go, let's take a look at this week's nominations for the Charlie's Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Players of the Week. Mike Robinson has been impressed with Findlay all year long, so in St. John's, John Madden, the fourth, stepped up and made some big defensive plays for the Titans in last night's fourth quarter. Only natural that Mike Robb would peg Madden, playing with his hand wrapped after an early season injury, as his Player of the Week. Titans overcoming an 11-point deficit in the fourth quarter to improve to 2-1, while handing the Trojans their first loss of the year.
Meanwhile, Mike Jewell going with Bowling Green's Eli Brown, the second straight week that Brown has been nominated. The Bobcats' do-everything quarterback had another big game as BG held off Anthony Wayne in the 28-27 win to remain undefeated. The senior quarterback rushed for 235 yards to go along with a pair of touchdowns in arguably the biggest win in Dirk Conner's tenure with Bowling Green.
Now, there are two other undefeated teams in the NLL, Perrysburg and Napoleon. And the Wildcats, Jarrett Gerdeman with another monster game last night. 163 yards, 4 touchdowns with plenty of rest in the second half as Napoleon cruised to the 56-0 win at Maumee. Next week, as we mentioned with Mike Robb earlier in tonight's show, Wildcats back at home to face the Yellow Jackets.
And the fourth option comes from the fans. It's the people's pick. Give the people what they want, Mark. It's Northview's Jack Glowski. Wildcats beating Springfield last night 28-21 for their first win of the season. And the senior sealed the victory with an interception at the goal line in the final seconds. Now next Friday, the Wildcats remain at home as they host Maumee.
And of course, you have until noon on Monday to head to the BCSN Twitter page and click your pick for this week's Fans of the Week. We'll reveal that winner on Monday, and then Monday night on Sports Nightly, we'll hear from that winner. Also going on today, the Big Ten perhaps making some moves as the Return to Competition Task Force, the subcommittee, met with the committee to discuss what they think might happen. Reportedly, the presidents will meet in the next 24 to 48 hours. Maybe we're going to get a vote by Tuesday. Maybe we'll have Big Ten back by mid-October. Wait and find out tomorrow. NFL, Browns, they open up the season against Ravens. Lions taking on the Bears. We'll see you tomorrow night right here on Sports Nightly.